Okay, we're now on.
Welcome everybody to the March 16, 2021 Victoria Esquimalt Police Board meeting. My name is Sean Dillon. I am the board director. I'm also the chair of governance. I will be chairing the meeting today. Before we continue further, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the West territory of the Coast Salish peoples, the Lakota peoples, and Songhees First Nation. And I would like to introduce to you, we have two new board members today. And we have Paul Schachter and we have Michaela Hayes. So wonderful to have them join us, and we look forward to them bringing their skill sets. We're looking forward to working with them and helping us serve both the communities of Victoria and Esquimalt. So I would like to move to the adoption of the agenda, which is item 1. Can I get a mover for the adoption agenda for March 16, 2021? Charlotte, seconded by Patty. Thank you. All right, and can I get a vote? All in favor? Thank you very much. Motion passed. Item number 2 is a standing agenda on the item, which is page 1 of the report for those following along home. And can I get the adoption of the minutes of the public meeting February 16, 2021? Doug, thank you. Get a seconder. Patty, thank you. All in favor? Great. Motion passed. Thank you very much. Next item is item B, which is Chief Constable Update and Monthly Activity Report, which is also page 4 of the report if you're following along home. Chief, could you please take it away?
Sure, perfect. Thank you for that, Chair. So I'm just again referring to page 4 of 20 in your package, and I attended a number of events, a lot of them virtual. I ended up going to Central Middle School, presented to the grade 6 class, was very well received. I presented to Claremont's Law 12 class, that's in the package. I also presented to both the city and the township for the Q4 Community Safety Report Card. And a couple other things I'll just highlight for you is the Victoria Police Department was the recipient of the Canadian Armed Forces Certificate of Appreciation for the work that we do as an employer with reservists. So our police organization has a number of individuals who serve in a volunteer capacity as reservists at different levels of rank. And so because we are supporting the work that they do with the Canadian Armed Forces, they recognize the Victoria Police Department as a preferred employer who supports those that are serving our country in different missions and different capacities, but yet we allow that and support that as an employer. So that was something that we received on the 2nd. I was quite privileged and proud of our organization for the work that we're doing in that area. And the last thing I'll just highlight is on March the 3rd, the members of the Victoria Police Department raised $13,000 for the Special Olympics polar plunge, virtual polar plunge this year. Money going to individuals who have intellectual disabilities, and by offering year-round sports programs, helping them achieve their personal best, building their confidence and allowing them to engage in high levels and in competition is something that the Victoria Police Department supports, and police agencies across Canada support that. So we were able to raise $13,000 in that polar plunge, and a number of us jumped in the ocean, and it was for a worthy cause. So that's my update. Happy to take any questions if any board member has any. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much, Chief. Next on the agenda is item C, which is the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Engagement Update, or let's go page 5.
Sure. So this is something I know that is important for the board, and they wanted to ask for updates on a monthly basis. I had the privilege, I'm not sure if any board members have participated in the CAROS blanket exercise, and so I had a chance to do that on February the 17th. It was done virtually, obviously with COVID-19, but just tracing the history and relationship between settlers and Indigenous peoples and finding out what happened, and to do virtual role-playing, highly emotional, very powerful, very engaging, allowing everyone to share their experiences was moving for me and for the other participants. So I was happy to have done that on the 17th. I'm the Victoria Police Department rep for the City of Victoria's Welcoming City Task Force. So we're meeting on a monthly basis, and I'm proud to represent the Victoria Police Department in that role. The Victoria Police Department supported Pink Shirt Day on Saturday, February 27th, towards the very end of Black History Month. I was asked by the African Caribbean Cultural Society and the Asamba Center to have it ended up being a 2-hour dialogue session with the Black community around community safety, around diversity, inclusion, and the connection that the police department have specifically with the Black community, and what are some of the steps that we're taking to bridge some of the gaps, build that trust, that community trust. So it's actually very well attended. The last 45 minutes was more of a Q&A, which was highly beneficial for having that engagement session. And the final thing was I had an opportunity to co-present with board member Charlotte Huber at the BC Association of Police Boards on understanding the impact of bias and racism. I got lots of positive feedback, as did Charla for that presentation. Charla, I don't know if you want to just add anything of the feedback and the comments and how you thought that presentation went.
I thought the presentation went really well, and I like the dynamic between the two of us and our perspectives. BCAPB has received a lot of really positive feedback from our presentation, and many members have asked us to share our PowerPoint slide deck with them. So I think it was a really great opportunity, and I think it was well received.
Sure, perfect. Thank you for that. And what we wanted to do with that presentation was be really forward-thinking, not just talk about what's happened in the past, but really think about what space are we in today and how can we all be better. And then really the message was looking inward and looking at ourselves first before we step outward. And I always say it's about dialogue and discussion. It's conversations over confrontation that you'll get further, but a lot of it is actually looking inward at our own biases before we can step forward and make positive change in the workplaces that we are engaged in. And then the last thing is the Victoria Police Department completed an internal survey. We're just starting to get the results, and I understand the completion rate was quite high, which will also inform our Human Resources Division just on the makeup of our organization, the different languages we speak, the different cultural diversity that we have within our organization. But having kind of a starting point and a benchmark will help us identify some areas that we want to grow in and improve in. And this was an initiative from our Diversity, Inclusion, and Respectful Workplace Committee. I undertook that survey, so I'll be sharing some of those results with the HR committee in the months ahead. And also just last thing is I met with I was put in touch with somebody new who had come from Edmonton to work with government. And so I had a chance to meet with Heike Chima. So I not met her. So she's newly appointed to government as a ministerial advisor to the AG's office and parliamentary secretary for anti-racism initiatives. So big title, important work. She's new, she doesn't know anyone, and I was asked if I could contact her and just kind of work with her, or at least be a contact if she needed any information, just even in policing, or even as somebody who works in community. And her goal is to work on the anti-racism file for government and communities across BC, and really look forward to putting together an anti-racism act, or at least help inform what that act may look like. That's my update on this particular topic. Happy to take any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Good question. Really appreciate the work you're doing in the community. Oh, sorry, Lisa has a question. Sorry, my apologies, Lisa.
Thanks, that's okay. No, more of a suggestion. That's great to have the departmental survey done, so we're starting to get a sense of who is our department. A couple years ago at the city, we did a video, well, we do a video Christmas card every year, but we did a video Christmas card, and we had all of our employees saying Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays in various languages. And when we did that, we were so surprised to see how many different languages were spoken at the city. So it might be good, once we've got this sorted, to make a recruitment video encouraging people to come and work at VicPD and doing it using, in various languages that are represented in the department. So that's just a suggestion more than anything.
Oh, perfect. And thank you for your comments. Actually, we did that on social media this year for Christmas. Whether you celebrate Christmas or the holidays, we had members from all the different ethnic communities. Myself, I said it in Punjabi. just wish everyone happy holidays and whatnot, but the recruiting side is something that we are working on. We've got a new website on the recruiting side, it's called Join the PD. And so we're actually populating that site, and then as we move forward with it, that's certainly something that we'll be looking into. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa, for that. If there's no other comments, I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which is item D, which is committee reports, which is page 6 for those following along at home. I'd like to give opportunity to the chairs of each of the committees if they wish to speak to any aspect or highlight. So I'll go to Charlotte, if you, as chair of HR.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to share here that I'm the rep for our board for the BCAPB, which is the BC Association of Police Boards. And we just recently had our AGM and somewhat of a virtual conference. And we had our keynote speaker was Christian Leprep, and he'd offered that we could make a donation in his name. And we come up with the idea to donate to 3 restorative justice associations across our province as the donation within Christian's name. And I wanted to highlight that the idea of donating to restorative justice came from a recent restorative justice Victoria presentation at one of these public board meetings. So I just wanted to know that those presentations from the public and different organizations and stakeholders in the communities are really valuable, because it allows us as board members to understand some of the good work that's happening within our community, and an opportunity that then we can give back through instances like this.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. If there's any comments or questions? Great, okay. I will go to the next portion of the agenda, which is governance. I'll highlight the first one, which is the 529 bike registry program. I want to say that this is a program that Wikipedia announced just very recently in the community of a new way, from a better way to register and to help find bikes that are stolen. Of course, we are some might say cycling capital of Canada, one of the top cities in North America, definitely. And cycling is a very important part of transportation. So this is a very popular program. This is a great program because it shows cases of our ability to move and find ways that are sort of better and that are more commonly used for bike owners. And I would say that for myself personally, the community that I've spoken to, they've found it be quite positive that we moved to this method. There are a number of shops and organizations that use this program, so I encourage the public to check out project529.com. If they have a bike or a bicycle and they wish to register, it's a good idea. It is something that, again, our department will be using to help find and cover lost bicycles, and I think it's a wonderful program, and glad it's highlighted. And then I'll mention one more thing on the agenda is the, right now the province, of course, is going through a special legislative assembly, special committee, which was commenced on December 9th, 2020, which basically is looking at essentially reviewing the Police Act and in accordance to modernize the Police Act, but also in accordance to using sort of the framework of the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. As part of the process of that committee, in terms of gathering feedback and information from stakeholders, we've been asked to submit sort of our submission as a board, and so we will be doing that in due course. So we'll let the public know. That's happening throughout the province, of course. So multiple boards have been asked, and so we will wait to see the outcome of that committee. But we acknowledge that it's a heavy committee, and I think they're doing great work. And we look forward to all the people at the table, and yeah, it'll be good. So that's my end of things. If I can go to Doug for finance, please.
Thank you, Chair. The only item I have on my part of the agenda is the unaudited monthly financial report for the, I guess, 7 weeks ending February 23rd, 2021. The report is in the package, and I would invite if the board has any questions or comments. I know we have Steve Vercombe on standby on the screen.
Okay, good. I think that's good.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Excellent. Next item on the agenda is going to be the board co-chairs update. So for the folks following at home, our co-chairs are both the Mayor of Esquimalt and the Mayor of Victoria, Mayor Lisa Helps. So Lisa, I'm just going to look to you if you have an update for us.
Sure. What I have to update on since the last board meeting is that myself and Mayor Desjardins met along with all of the other mayors in the region and the provincial government. This is dating back many years now, but working on better governance and police, civilian, I guess, oversight of integrated units. So there are a number of integrated units in the region. Some involve RCMP, some just involve municipal. The chief can probably give some examples of what those units are when I'm finished giving this introduction. And we've been working for a number of years to make sure that the units are kind of overseen but not directed by the mayors. And this is really in terms of efficiency and public safety. And the units that are functioning right now, the integrated units, work very well. But should there be the desire to establish a new unit, maybe it's cybercrime or again, the chief would know better because we're not into police operations. But how do we make sure that the elected bodies and police boards are represented in some of those decision making or exploratory conversations? And so the province is taking a leadership role to create, I think it's going to be called a mayor's discussion council or something. And that's been years in the making, and I think we'll see some movement in that direction very soon. And I think it's really good to see regional cooperation between RCMP and municipal departments. And we'll wait to see how that unfolds. But I had mentioned at the last public board meeting that meeting with the province was upcoming. And I think it's good to highlight that all of the mayors and police departments and RCMP detachments are working together in the interest of public safety and also efficiency and making sure we're not duplicating resources. So that's all. Acting Chair, thank you very much.
Everyone, thank you, Lisa. Any comments, any questions, Lisa's report?
And maybe actually, could I give, Chief, just for the public, can you give an example of some of those integrated units that this mayor's governing council or whatever it's going to be called would be involved in working with police leadership on?
Sure. Through you, Chair, if I may. So I'll give you 3 examples. So one is the Regional Domestic Violence Unit. Another one would be the Integrated Mobile Crisis Response Team, which has a police officer paired with a mental health clinician. And the third one would be our mobile youth services team. So we have a police officer with a youth social worker, and so they go out and they're engaging with youth that are exploited, that are vulnerable, and so it's units like that would have kind of a higher level of governance, whether some of these units need to expand or there's new opportunities. And Lisa touched on a couple areas. One, she touched on cybercrime. It's an area of growing concern, and really it should have a regional approach, if not a provincial and a national approach to it. Also, K9, the Victoria Police Department recently partnered with the Saanich Police Department to kind of integrate our K9 services. And so is there an opportunity perhaps to expand that to the RCMP and Oak Bay and Central Saanich as well? Those are opportunities that we'll all be exploring together.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. If there's no other further discussion, I'd like to move to the next item on the agenda, which is the item F, the BC Association of Police Boards Directors Update, which is Charlotte. If you can speak to that, please.
Definitely, yes, thank you. So I'm happy to announce that on March 6th, I was elected to be president of the BCAPB for a 2-year term. We had our AGM and our joint dialogue session with police chiefs, as Chief Manick mentioned, that we did a presentation on the joint dialogue session, as well as the resolutions that the Victoria Esquimalt Police Board put forward passed for the additional funding for JIBC. So BCAPB will be working to get that motion moved forward. Our motion from 2020 also passed. There's 2 motions regarding WorkSafe BC. So now, and some of that work had moved forward, but now as president, we'll be working with BCAPB and WorkSafe BC to get those addressed as well. And that's my update.
Sure, thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
That's actually that's amazing, and it's really wonderful for our board. For new members who joined, this is quite a significant appointment because Charlotte will be at the table with all the other boards at the higher levels, so to speak, in BC. So it's nice to have our voice there, but also be able to have representation at a higher level. So thank you, Charlotte, for doing that. Next on the agenda is called the board member engagement update. For the new members who have joined pre-COVID, we would have this update whereby members would talk about engagements or activities that they participate in the community, whether it's open houses, dialogues, or community events. Very similar to how the chief presents his own update in the community events that he participates in. So we have something similar. However, we know we are in COVID time, so not too many board members are out about the community for safety reasons. So it's okay if we don't have an update per se. We're hoping that maybe in the near future we'll be able to get back to the community again. Before I ask the board members if there is an update, I know I have an update personally, but I just want to ask board members if anybody have. Doug, please go ahead.
That was the Q4 chief's presentation to the Esquimalt Council. I was silent because I was on the phone.
Great, thank you very much. I have a quick story to tell really quickly. And so last week, a member of our community, someone who is has the ability to take folks who are in the encampments and put them and transition them into housing supports that are coming up from BC Housing in our community, reached out to the community at large and said that one of the members who they had to leave was, I believe, being housed here in the new arena, I believe, received placement. Their mode of transportation was the bicycle, and it was in very bad shape. And the call out was to see if anybody could help with that, what they can do. I responded, and I said that I would be happy to pay for the repair and whatever it would cost to be, because this was their main transportation. It has sentimental value. And I said, just figure out what bike shops you want to go to and put the call out. I will say that two bike shops in the community would like to highlight. One is Fairfield Bicycles, and of course Broad Street Cycles, who have said that they would repair the bike at a reduced cost. And then of course, so I already covered that, took care of that, and this individual will have a virtually new bike. In addition to that, because of the 529 project, which was announced, the bike will be registered free of charge under that program as well. So that was really a neat synergistic opportunity. But I just wanted to highlight this individual in the community who is looking after folks in the encampments and helping them transition to housing. I did get their permission. His name is Charles Bodie, B-O-D-I. I want to thank him publicly for being such an active member of the community and finding ways to support people who are marginalized and vulnerable in these times. And I think it's really great. I just want to mention the reason why this is part of board member engagement, because I made sure that when I talked to the businesses and letting them know that I would be supporting, I did it on behalf of our department. Essentially, I took the onus because I was inspired by recent conversation by membership here that say how often, when they are in the community, they will do things like paying for groceries for folks who are down and out. I've heard stories of our members, collecting money and help, sending people buying tickets for obviously family or even ferry costs. And those stories we don't get to hear about often, but those are just human connections and things that we do. So being inspired by that, knowing this sort of membership does every day, every shift, I thought I would do the same thing as well. So I just want to share that with you all. And I think this individual will hopefully get their bike in the next couple of days or so, and hopefully they'll feel that they know that there is a community behind them. It's, being unhoused has lots of issues, lots of trauma. We know that, we recognize that, but as a community, we're trying to come together. We're trying to, not only our board, our department, our mayors, we're all trying to help everybody collectively and support on one another. So I want to share that with you. Thank you for letting me share a story with you. Item H is the 2020 board strategic priority. So just a reminder, folks, this has been left up because we were waiting for our new board members, which we are here now. We were going to work on our 2021 strategic priorities. which we will be doing soon. We'll have a meeting for that. So we will hopefully have a 2021 board future priorities update for you, but we left it as a standing item just for folks to see what our 2020 priorities are. But I will mention there is one objective that has been met very recently on that, which is, I believe under item 1, investigate live streaming of public board meetings, which is what's happening right now. So I want to take a moment and thank the team involved in getting this set up. It was a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of work. For those in the public may not know, it wasn't simply, it wasn't as simple as hitting a Zoom call or anything. There's policies and procedures in place. But I'm glad to see that we have that ability now, and the public can engage in that way. So I want to thank the board who put that on the agenda for 2020, and want to congratulate ourselves that we have met that objective. And I want to thank the team as well, and those 19, especially helping us get there. So thank you so much. Next item on the agenda is, so scroll back up here, is the framework agreement, item I. I don't know who I should be looking to. Mayor House, if you could, yes, please speak to that.
Yeah, sure. This is an item that's on the agenda, just like the last one. It's a standing item, so that we're always transparent about the framework agreement, what it is, that it's the governing relationship between Esquimalt, Victoria, and VicPD. And we always want to leave it on there in case there are any issues arising with respect to the framework agreement. So those last two items are our standing items for our consideration. And sorry, Chair, I should have put up my hand more quickly, just so the public knows we're actually having our board strategic planning session next Friday. So we should be out with a fresh set of priorities for 2021 at our next public board meeting.
Great, thank you very much, Lisa, appreciate that. Okay, great. So if no other items, we'll move on to item number 3, which is new business, which is Bill C-75, bail, and the chief manager name is next. Could you please speak to that?
Sure. Thank you for that, Chair. So this is something that was raised in the last public board meeting, and the discussion was raised about the release of offenders, whether they're prolific offenders or they're committing crimes. What are the conditions and what's kind of the threshold now for holding individuals in custody to have a date and appear in court? And so, I just wanted to bring back this month and just share with you that Bill C-75 amended the criminal code and the Youth Criminal Justice Act and a number of other acts, and it really was an attempt to modernize and streamline the bail regime, and also look at a number of other legislative changes. It received royal assent about 1.5 years ago in June of 2019, and under that is one area of the criminal code that was amended, and it's under the category of guidance for the exercise of prosecutorial discretion. And I just want to read out to you, under that heading, there's the principle of restraint, section 483.1, which says, in making the decision under this part, a peace officer, justice, or judge shall give primary consideration to the release of the accused at the earliest reasonable opportunity and on the least onerous conditions that are appropriate in the circumstances, including conditions that are reasonably practical for the accused to comply with while taking into account the grounds referred to in a number of subsections. Really what that means in layman's terms is that the starting point is that an accused will be released, and then you have to start justifying why you think that they need to be held in custody. And the threshold is relatively high to do that. And with that is based on the severity of the offense, the ability of that individual to attend court, and also public interest. But I will tell you that it is a difficult test to meet. Our criminal justice system is one that also affords the opportunity to consider if an accused is Indigenous. There are additional considerations that must be taken into account. If the accused belongs to a vulnerable population that is overrepresented in the criminal justice system, and that is disadvantaged in obtaining release under this part. So it is a system that we're working with. We regularly have discussions with our Crown Counsel on whether an individual should be held in custody or whether they should be released on conditions, knowing a lot of times that there's a high likelihood that that individual, when released, regardless of the conditions, is probably going to re-offend. But if it is not a crime, such as a sex assault or something that involves a high level of violence against a person, there's a high likelihood that that individual will be released on conditions. And then, of course, it's upon the police to monitor those conditions to make sure that that individual is in compliance. So that's where we're at, and there's not really a lot of leeway, especially for the last year and a half when Bill C-75 was introduced. Before I open it up for the board for any comments on that, I just wanted to give Deputy Chief Jason Laidman an opportunity to mention anything or highlight anything I might have missed.
Chief, I think you covered that well. Nothing I need to add.
Okay.
Other than it's both codified and in case law in Supreme Court County.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Madam. Any comments or questions? Lisa?
Well, I mean, Chief, how do we explain, I mean, I know this is a public meeting, so maybe now is the time to do, but how do we explain this to the public? That if somebody is, you know, arrested for robbing a store with a knife, and you catch them, you arrest them, you take them in, and then according to this, you know, it sounds pretty likely that they're just going to be released, even though they may need something other than that. So how do we grapple with this as a community and as communities across the country?
Yeah, I think that I think it's challenging, and I think it's a discussion that we need to be having with our community. It's a discussion I will share with you that we have. Deputy Laidman sits on the Crown Police Liaison Committee, so there's a committee that meets monthly, if not sooner, depending on what if there's a burning issue that cannot wait for the next meeting. But we regularly, the police chiefs, the police leaders are at the table with senior levels of Crown Council and the courts. And we need to work together in the justice system. But the reality of this is that we've had a number of really high profile incidents that have happened where somebody has really victimized a number of individuals. It could be by throwing a rock through 15 windows, and they're highly violent and they have significant challenges and barriers. However, holding them in jail or keeping them in custody is usually not something that the courts will support. So we will make an argument. We will make an argument in the extreme cases, especially when somebody is a prolific offender. And we know that by releasing them, we know that we might as well just follow them to the next crime they commit. And we want to stop the victimization. That's really the goal, is to keep our community healthy and safe. But I would say, Lisa, it's an ongoing discussion that we are having. I will tell you that for many of our officers, it's also frustrating because we just don't see the justice. Now, trust me, our officers get it. We're not saying, you know, lock them up and throw away the key. We have seen systems like that across other parts of the world, and that doesn't work. But I think that, you know, we would sometimes like to see a little bit more responsiveness from the courts. And those are the discussions and the hard discussions that we're having, I would say, on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Chief. Doug, and then Michaela.
I think the chief, I guess, I am a layperson on this, so I don't pretend to fully understand it. But it seems to me, and I'd be welcoming your input or your comments on the discussions you're having with Crown Councils and other regulatory bodies, that releasing people is fine as long as they're provided with the appropriate level of support and resources, which the police can't do necessarily. A, we're not trained to do it. B, we don't have the resources to do it. But there's got to be other resources, other facilities, other organizations that can provide that sort of oversight, resources to a person like that would reduce the probability of reoffending maybe, or endangering others or endangering themselves. This is where I get, as a layperson, I don't understand why it's okay to 75, you know, that standard to hold somebody in custody is very high, but nothing's there to replace it. Does that, Mike, it's not really a question, I guess, but does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And again, like, as I said, these are the real life challenges that we're seeing of how do we provide a level of deterrence to individuals? How is there consequences? Because it's not just individuals who are vulnerable or who have mental illness. We have some career criminals. We have some really, really seasoned criminals. We have organized crime. We have people whose sole purpose is, when they're out from jail, is to keep committing crimes and to profit. from individuals. And those are the individuals that we are trying to bring to the court's attention and saying, well, we're chasing these individuals around, they're small in percentage, but they're responsible for a significant amount of harm in community. But as I said, we have to work within, whether it's a Supreme Court of Canada decision or whether it's the justice system. Those are the things that we have to grapple with. We are just one part of the criminal justice system, and how do we provide the best support and individually look at cases one by one, because everyone's got a unique story. But I will tell you that people who have a record for failing to appear in court, or they have no fixed address, but the offense doesn't meet that threshold, they're still released, and then there's a warrant issued for their arrest, because as we know, they are not going to appear when they're given a date for court, because they've shown a history of not appearing before when they're given a date for court. So those are, again, some of the ongoing challenges we face and just hard discussions that we're having with Crown Council and our justice partners.
Michaela?
Well, I just think what Mary Holmes said is really valuable, and we should keep that discussion going of how we communicate with people in the community, because I think the knee-jerk reaction is often to blame the police, right? And many people aren't educated in how the criminal justice system actually works and where directives come from and policies and bills. So I think it's really important to communicate with people what the policing side of things is doing to support protecting individuals. And also, just to speak from this as a small business owner downtown, and maybe it's because of the example you brought up, a very similar situation happened right across the street from us. And I think there's a really important need to communicate, to have the ability for small business owners and people who are calling with concerns to get some more information when they call and speak to constables and call the non-emergency line, other than, I called the police about this person a week ago doing the same thing and now they're back. And to have another layer of communicating back to the organization of, here is why this person is back. And it's not about throwing the bill under the bus and blaming, another system, but I think that certainly among the business community, there's regular conversations of where is the support for the protection of our business and our staff. And because it's a lot of it's geographical, right? You see the same people over and over and over again in certain blocks, and you see them get arrested, and you see them commit crimes, and you see things, and then the questions are raised. And when we've had this specific experience a number of times of placing a phone call to the non-emergency line, and it would be wonderful. I look at things in a certain scope because of my background and my understanding, but certainly even my husband and our employees and colleagues, to give them another layer of explanation so they don't then leave and go tell everyone who's willing to listen to them about their experience in trying to make a complaint to the police about something. So I do think that additional communication is really valuable to help people understand why things are the way they are.
Thank you. Member Sheet, please.
Yeah, and so one of the things is, this is the balancing act that we have to work with the courts, and the courts have to find that balance. And sometimes I will tell you that it feels like that there's more focus on the offender and less focus on the person who's been victimized. And especially when tremendous harm is done. And just because it hasn't happened to you, it doesn't make it any less important. And so those are some of the hard discussions that we're having is, yes, we want to have a deterrence. Yes, we want to rehabilitate people. As you know, you've done work in restorative justice. Restorative justice plays a key role in reforming and in kind of repairing some of the harm that's been done. But we also know that restorative justice is only applicable for certain crimes, for certain individuals who are willing to come up and step up to the table and recognize that they made an error and they want to make that, repair the harm that they've created.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you very much. Any further comments? Patty, yes?
It just reminds me of something. I worked for the Ministry of Attorney General, and our building was at 910 Government Street. There was also some public space down below it. There were two women, English women, looking at the signboard, and it said criminal justice. And then one woman turned to the other and said, "Is there only justice for criminals here?" I remember it's some of the terms we use. Perhaps to, as a board, we could look at that public engagement. Us putting some of the message across, we need to be really clear on our own parts of understanding. If somebody asks a question that's complicated, we give it over to someone else. But I think it could become part of our bailiwick as well.
Chief, yes?
And just one final thing, and I know we could go on about this, because this is such an important topic and it impacts all of us in the community and the police department. But just a Doug's comment, I just wanted to highlight that the reality of the situation, the reality is that we have people that are ill on our streets, and they are not served well. They do not have the services that they need and require. And I know that all of us are working. It's not about pointing fingers. And we're all working, and government's working, and all levels of government service providers, including the health authority, is committed to making change and knowing that there are gaps and knowing that we need critical care centers, we need forensic psychiatric hospitals, when treatment and prevention are also key, not just harm reduction and enforcement. But we just can't get there quick enough, and we know in the meantime, there's tremendous harm that's being caused, and there's people that are wandering around without having the services that they need to even live like we would expect them to live in a first world country.
That's a very good point, Chief. Thank you very much for that. And Lisa, sorry, and then Patty after. Oh, sorry, Lisa, sorry.
I don't know that the board knows enough about this to make a motion on the fly, and I'm just trying to think about the best committee for this to go to. But the BC Urban Mayors Caucus, which I co-chair with Mayor Bazran from Kelowna, has made a call to the province to have complex care housing for people who are, and Chief, I get the point, not all the people you're talking about have these complex needs, but it might be good for the board, not only our board, but the rest of the mayor's boards as well, to write to the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions and the Minister of Housing, stressing the urgency of these complex care places. But I get that the board probably doesn't have enough information. So maybe, since it's a letter to the province that we'd be writing, maybe could we put that on the governance committee agenda for April the 6th, and I'll provide information to the board/committees about what that complex care housing request is, and then the board can consider whether it wants to write a letter of support.
Great. Any comments to Lisa's idea of putting the reference to the governance committee and then bringing back a report for April? Okay, Lisa, so Lisa will do that. So as chair of governance committee, I'll just take that on and say yes, we'll work with you on that. And,
okay, I'll send you over the documents that the mayors have produced so far.
Great, thank you very much. And maybe it might be an idea, Lisa, and I'm going to turn to Charlotte as well, because you are a representative of PCA, PMG, representing all boards. Maybe have your insight as well. Perhaps on the document, if you don't mind, a second set of eyes on that. If you're okay with that.
As a Victoria Esquimalt Police Board member, I will do that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Okay, thank you, Lisa. And there's no further, sorry. Okay. There's no further discussion. I believe that is the agenda. Is at the end of our agenda. So I wish to get a motion to conclude the meeting. Doug, second by Patty. All in favor? Thank you, everybody, for joining, and hopefully everybody gets to be safe and enjoy the weather, enjoy the sunshine. Thank you.